So today, let's start today's class. We're going to be looking at our very last chapter in SBL, and this is leading and managing projects. So it's also not a complicated topic because it's a continuation of what we saw in the previous chapter on project management. So here we are seeing how we can be able to lead those particular projects that we are going to do and how we can manage them. So even before we go any further, what is a project? Does anyone have an idea of what a project is? Jen, do you have an idea? Joshua, do you have an idea of what a project is in simple terms? None has an idea. Anyway, a project is something that has a beginning point and an ending point, which is different from running an organization on a day-to-day basis. So with a project, we come up with something that's just a second. Okay. So with a project, we come up with something that we are intending to achieve. Then we begin on it and close on it.
I think our project is making.
Yes, Joshua, you're saying something. Is it my network or it's Joshua's network? Jen, can you hear me well?
I think the network was a bit off.
That's mine.
I can hear you.
So Joshua, it's your network, not mine. Eh? Okay, so like I was saying, a project.
Okay, okay. My network.
Oh, sorry about that. So a project, we work on it for a given period of time. If, for example, in finance and have a problem with inventory, we could say we would like to begin up, we would like to develop something, maybe a software, maybe a system that we can put in place that can help us to be able to manage the inventory management. So we choose people that can be able to help us on that particular piece of work, which is now a project. We discuss, look for possible solutions, then we start on it. If it's maybe developing an app for managing inventory, we start on the app production. We do the codings, we do the trials until it can be able to work perfectly well. So when we finish it, then we can be able to use it for the intended purpose. So that's what a project is about. It has a beginning point and it also has an ending point, different from our day-to-day activities. So let me see, I think someone wants to join the call. Okay. And have you all, did I send the link for using the LMS portal? Just a second, let me confirm. Okay, let me send the link right now in the group so that you can be able to open up accounts and check on the videos for the class recordings. I thought I'd shared this link. Okay, so I've sent it in the group. You can be able to create an account and then you follow up from there. In case you have any issues, you can let me know so I can engage Ivan to assist you in creating those different each individual account. Yeah, so back to our today's topic. So under leading and managing of projects, we shall see the different nature of projects that are there. We shall see how to be able to manage the different projects that we are running in an organization and their life cycle as well. And then we shall see the business case and project initiation, project plans, monitoring of the different projects, and then lastly how we can be able to have the project closure. So we have two different okay, so let's look at the nature of the project. We have identifiable beginnings and endings. Like I said, for it to be a project, it must have a beginning point and an ending point. If it's
Kindly share the screen.
Cannot see the screen.
sorry. Okay, you can now see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at the nature of a project. Like I said, a project is one that has a beginning and an end. It's not running for an indefinite life. Then it is carried out to meet an established goal within cost. So like I was giving an example, if our problem, for example, in finance is stock management, we can say we would like to develop something that will help us to be able to minimize errors in stock management. So the goal is now inventory or stock accuracy or management. So that we've established the goal. We know the cost that we can be able to work around with, and then we begin on the project and have it completed. Then it is also temporary because we are trying to create a unique service or a unique product, which in this example I was saying, let's say an app that we're trying to develop, or software that we're trying to develop that can be able to capture the inflow and outflow of different inventory. So we make it basically for what for the goal that we have been able to identify. So that is the nature of a project. It must have, in your mind, you should know that it's something that does not have an indefinite life. It should be able to have a beginning, an end. We have a goal that we are looking at, the cost that we must also operate in, and it's mainly it's temporary, basically to create a unique product or a service. So the different characteristics. So with these different projects that we okay, if for example let's use the same example so that you can be able to understand it more clearly. If our problem, we said we want to solve inventory management, and we are looking at developing a system or an app that can be able to assist us in this particular inventory management. So us as finance department, we may not have all the skills, all the knowledge, and every other information that we need to be able to have this app in place. So maybe we'll need someone in the IT to guide us. We need someone from management to tell us how we can maybe be able to manage in the process of developing the app. We need someone, let's say, from maybe an expatriate who knows how to develop these apps. So we have different departments that will bring about, or that we shall have to include in this particular work. So for the project team, usually they will usually have people who are coming from different departments, so that they can be able to work together and be able to get these objectives that we're looking at achieved. Then it's a project is performed usually once, because it's for a particular problem that has been identified. If you're saying that our problem is inventory management, if we've developed the app and it has been finished, it means this project has come to an end. So we don't have to continue doing inventory software development, because it's already in place. So it's done once. Then as we're trying to we're trying to achieve the goal that we are looking at, we have objectives, and these objectives, they should be able to be specified and be able to fit in the scope that we are looking at. And lastly, they usually have a deadline and a budget. There is no way we can begin to work on a project and we don't know when we intend to start it and when we intend to finish it. As well, we don't know when we cannot do it when we don't know how much we are willing to spend or what is our budget frame for this particular project. So those are the main characteristics of a project, because it's like something that you really must have on place, or something that must be predetermined before you begin to work on that project. So let's look at the constraints, project constraints. So we have three, actually, okay, there are four. Here they are. Let me show you in the graph. So we have the scope, the cost, and the schedule. These are the main three, but all these also will have an effect on the quality. So how do these become a constraint? Remember, with the scope, we are looking at what we want to cover. If it's developing this software for managing inventory, what do we want to include? What do we intend to solve? So all that part that you're trying to cover is the scope. Then the cost is the amount of money that is available for you, that you need to be able to have this to its completion. Just a second. Sorry about that. So the cost, like I was saying, is the money or the resources that you will need to have this project come to a conclusion. It could be the money, it could be the labor, it could be anything that is regarding to expenditure. And then schedule is how much is the calendar period that we have set. When do we intend to start to work on this particular work, or when do we intend to have it closed? So how each of these becomes a constraint. If, for example, we say this project is supposed to run for 5 months, and then because of different occurrences, we say we need to reduce this time to 4 months, so that you can be able to use it as soon as possible. How does that affect the other three? It means if you reduce the period of time, maybe you'll have to increase the number of people that are working on the project. Maybe they need to work overtime, so you're going to pay them overtime allowance. So in that way, it will affect the cost. The cost will increase. Then if we say, for example, now our problem is cost. The project sponsor says we don't have enough money that is available right now. We had budgeted for 5 million, but currently we have only 2 million. So we must work around with this cost and have this project completed. So how does this affect the other three? It means with low costs, we're going to have to, we cannot afford to pay people overtime, so it means we have the schedule is going to be much longer. People work on a slower pace. Also the quality, if we don't have enough money, it means we can have the quality played around with, and it will not be as effective as we wanted it, and also the scope will be affected. But if we also say that if we say the scope is the one which is changing, let's say we had looked at targeting maybe tackling 5 major items, but now we say we're going to increase them to 6 or maybe 8. It means we will need more money to cater for the other 3 more objectives that we have set in place. We'll need more time. Also the quality will be affected. So this is how the scope, the cost, schedule, and quality are affected if we try to compromise on any one of them. So any single decision that you try to change or to alter on these will have an effect on the other 3. So we have to be extremely vigilant as we're trying to change or have an alter on in any of these 4 items when you're doing project management. So that's how the constraints come about. You end up squeezing the other sections that you could not have even intended to squeeze. So let's look at roles and responsibilities. In project management, we usually have the project sponsors, we have project managers, and a team. So each person has different responsibilities that they will have to do for this project to be successful. Yes. Okay. So who is a project manager? A project manager is someone who has authority to manage a project. This person could be appointed to be able to head that particular project until completion. So this person is responsible for the day-to-day running of the project. Is it working? What is the progress? How are we managing? Are we getting any difficulties? Do we need to change anything? Do we need more expertise? That is the day-to-day running of the business. So this project manager will be the one to tackle that part. Then we have a project sponsor. A project sponsor is someone who is funding the project, or someone would call the owner of the particular project. If it is, let's say, developing a software for managing the organization, who is the owner of the organization? Who is giving us the money? That person is the person who call the project sponsor. So this person mainly is his role is to ensure that the project will make a sound business sense, and they will be looking at now all the different other aspects of the project. It should be able to make economic sense. It should be able to improve what you intended to work on, the desirables. It should be able to give direction. If we say we're developing a project for managing inventory, and its cost, for example, you need, let's say maybe you need 1 million to have this project completed, and then this cost will only save you, maybe you were having inventory losses of 100,000. So you see that the cost and the benefit do not match at all. So it means the project was not viable, or it was not having a business sense. The cost is much higher than the benefit. So this is the role of the sponsor, to be able to evaluate and see, is the benefit much benefit we're getting from this project helping us to solve a lot of, or save the benefit, is the benefit much more than the cost that we are going to incur to have this project in place. Then we have the project owner. This is the person for whom a project is being carried out for, or is the person who is interested in the end result of meeting the project objectives. We also have the steering group, or what we would call a team. So the steering group is a group of people that that are recommended for projects that span a number of functional areas. If we have our project, let's say for inventory management, and then we have different individuals from different departments that are looking at its functionality. It could be maybe the warehouse people, it could be people that could interface with that particular software. So those would be in the steering group. Then it's also important when you're giving responsibilities to have in place a project champion, because now this person, apart from this will be different from the project manager, because now the manager is actively participating in the day-to-day running of the project. But with a champion, this one is determining the direction or giving a pace of where this project is going. These ones will have the vision of the project, and this person will also be responsible for pushing the project to be accepted. For example, if we have the finance department complaining about the cost, maybe we're not performing extremely well and we're saying we need to spend 1 million to have this project completed, and the finance department says, look, we don't have this amount of money, I think it's best for us to hold and maybe wait. At the same time, maybe the sponsor is saying we can be able to improvise and have this project created. Also, the warehouse team could say, we're having a lot of shortages and it's very difficult for us to be able to manage without this software, but then also it is going to consume a lot of time. So you find that there are a lot of discrepancies among the team members, different departments. Each person has something they're prioritizing other than the project. So now the champion, it is his role to come in place and ensure that he's able to, which marketing word can I use, to bring it to everyone's attention, to ensure that they can come to a consensus and be able to accept this project to be prioritized and carried on. So it ensures that the project keeps running. That is his main role. In case there are any challenges, it will be his responsibility to ensure that he can be able to coordinate the different teams that are responsible for ensuring that this project can continue running to its completion. We also have a project board, and the board is mainly responsible for the overall overlooking of the project. So the board will have representatives, it will have users, it will have maybe the suppliers, who could be now the expatriates in this case, maybe for us to develop a software. So these ones will be on the board, and there will be someone who will be heading the board that will ensure that there is proper coordination and communication among the board members. So those are the different roles or positions that we would need to give to the different team members to ensure that we can be able to successfully have this project worked on. If you don't have, imagine if you forget to put a project manager, and then the members are not working as they should be working, it's very difficult because no one is responsible for overlooking that. Or maybe you don't have a project champion. So it means if the project manager gets a challenge along the way, he could feel demotivated and then he could let go of the project's goal. So it means you'd not be able to achieve the scheduled period of time. So you not having a champion would cost you that extra time. So it's very important to ensure that now you distribute the different roles and everyone is given a particular role to ensure that they can be able to focus on that particular work and aid or assist each other as a team to come to a conclusion of the project. So, like we said, the project manager is responsible for the day-to-day running of the project. So what are his main responsibilities? Based on that, Anyone willing to give us maybe one or two? If you're a manager in your organization and you're running the day-to-day activities, or you're the one overlooking, what do you think would be your roles? Anyone?
Building team spirit and encouraging the team members to finalize the project.
Yes, that's good. Thank you. Another? I saw another person who had unmuted.
I think one of the roles of the project manager would be to ensure that the team he has assigned the tasks is or her is or her task is to make sure that the activities are being carried out and the procedures are being followed as it was put in place.
Yes, that's also correct. So he's saying if you've been assigned a role, you're doing the role that you are given. You're not going to be an IT person and then you're doing things that do not even concern the IT department. So the project manager is responsible for really overseeing and ensuring that each person is able to perform their task. So we have we have the team, we have the different individuals and the tasks themselves, and all these are responsible of the manager. That's why the manager is at the center. So the project manager is supposed to ensure there is a balance. You're not doing one thing over the other. Maybe you could say our aim is to ensure that we finish on time, and then you're neglecting the quality, maybe, for example. So it means that yes, you will finish on time, but maybe the system that you've designed is not solving the problem. So what was the use of having a project anyway? So that is the main role of the project manager. He's going to ensure that all the three in terms of the team, the task, and the individuals are balanced. If it's the individuals, which members do you need on your team, and what skill must they have? If it is the team, is it working as a team, or each person has decided to do what they think they want to do? So it's important for this team to be well coordinated. And then for the task itself, you're able to identify which tasks are supposed to be done, what is the plan for having these tasks done, and who is going to be responsible for doing these different activities. If it is, let's say, coding, who is going to be doing coding? If it is trial of the system, who is going to do the trial? If it is any task, who is responsible for doing that particular kind of work? So that is the main role of the project manager. He does the monitoring, he does the coordination of the tasks, he ensures that the team can be able to do its work. He ensures that there is team building, there is team spirit, people can be able to work together, motivate the different individuals to be able to do their work. He will also lead them, show them what they need to do. So all that will be the work of the project manager in regards to having this project completed successfully. So apart from that, they also have to do planning. It's very important for them to do planning before the project has started. Otherwise, you will not have if you don't have a clear plan, it will be difficult for you to be able to achieve the intended goals. Let it be the time, let it be the the output or the end result of the project. Then he also does the managing of the project risk, the different risks that arise during the course of the project. And these, some risks, if you've done projects before, know that maybe we're at a high risk of having this happening. How can we be able to mitigate it, or how can we be able to ensure that once it happens, we can still be able to work around it? So he's supposed to manage the project risks, identify the project risks, and be able to put in place a contingency plan for those risks in case they happen. It's also responsible for adopting the appropriate standards and processes, because there will be processes that you will need to follow or to consider as you're doing your work. So it is his role to ensure that these processes that are being introduced are being adopted by the team. Otherwise, you might introduce the processes and no one follows them at all. Then it does the reporting to the project governance structure. That is the sponsor who is funding the project, to ensure that what we are doing is going to achieve its vision or its purpose. Then we have a project sponsor who we said this person is responsible for giving us the funds, or we could call him the owner of the project. So what do you think would be the responsibilities of this particular guy who is funding us? So you can tell us, those who didn't tell us, on the project manager. Joshua, we have Nagai, I don't know how to pronounce your other name. Sorry. Which other person? Even Cecilia, did you? I think Cecilia said something. Please unmute and tell us, what do you think would be now the role of a project sponsor?
To support fund the project or provide finance needed.
Yes, that's true. Thank you. Another one?
Working with stakeholders to establish the project vision and determine the risk appetite relating to that project.
Okay, that's also correct.
I think also one of their roles is to visit the fields where the projects are being implemented, to ensure that the results are being met as planned.
Yes, ensuring that the completion is meeting the targeted objectives. That's correct. Any other?
Availing funds for the project to be run.
Yes, that's his primary role. So those are basically the roles of the sponsor. Let's look at them in detail. So the project sponsor, he will work with the stakeholders to establish the project vision and determine the risk appetite relating to the project. It is his role, clearly, to be able to see what is the vision, what is the intended use, and which direction do we want to take to have this project completed, and what are the risks involved, and how much can we accommodate, we as a company. If something is much risky and you cannot be able to accommodate any risks that come along, then it's best you be able to see if you can mitigate them, and if not, you let go of the project. Then the sponsor is also responsible for continuing validity of the project, of the business case. Sorry. If we say we are going to develop a system that is going to solve inventory, and then along the way we find that this system that we're developing is outdated, it does not still serve the purpose, it should be at this point that he can be able to address the point and see how we can be able to have the project channeled to ability to solve the problem. So he has to check how valid is this particular project to the business. Then he will also do the governance. He will see the different project programs that are being run and how risks are being managed, and how we can be able to bring together all the different considerations, be it financial, be it non-financials, but everything that is in regards to this particular project. Then it is his main role. It is also his, it's very important for him to ensure that this project that we're working on can be able to generate more profits than the cost that he's going to spend or release into the project. Like I said, if the project is going to cost 1 million and the benefit of what you're going to get from its completion is only 100,000, why were you wasting the shareholders' money? It means it's not economically viable. So it's supposed to be able to assess and see what is the cost and vis-a-vis what is the benefit, and where are we meeting, what's the balancing point. Are we going to benefit more, or are we not benefiting at all? So those are the main roles of the sponsor. Let's now look at the stages of the project life cycle. So with the project life cycle, we have 4 different stages that we'll look at, and the main purpose of these 4 stages is to help us to understand the processes that are involved in the project. So we'll see what are the key tasks that are being taken, what is the business case development, how are we monitoring, what is the post project review. So you see in the inner circle we have a post implementation review, we have the project definition, we have the detailed planning and the monitoring. Then in the outer circle we have the project initiation, project planning, project execution, and then project closure. Of course, at the start of the project we have the initiation document. And what is involved in this initiation document, or what do we consider at the point of inception, or at a point when we are starting or introducing the project to the organization? So at this phase we define what are the objectives that we want to look at or that we want to tackle in regards to the project. What do we want? What is the scope? What are we going to cover? So you see the tasks that you will need to tackle, or the tasks that you need to take very cautiously on as you're trying to develop this particular project. So we see if we have if we need leaders to be put in place, all the different roles to be taken on, which people are we going to appoint? Is it the sponsor? Is it the manager? Is it the team? Is it the... So you see which people are going to be well skilled for this particular team. So you, at the point of inception, you have to identify that. You look at the business case. How much money do you think we'll need to spend to have this project up to completion? You identify, you do the assessment, and you calculate and come to a particular cost budget. So you know that we need this is our budget, and this is how much money we'll need in these particular phases. Then sorry, is someone joining the class? I had... Okay, yeah, okay. Then at the initiation phase, we also need to conduct a feasible study to determine whether the project is going to be viable or make economic sense to the business. That is only after if you've been able to identify the costs that are involved and what will be the benefits. So the feasibility can be examined in 4 different headings. It has to be commercially feasible, it has to be technically feasible, operationally feasible, and socially feasible. So with the commercial, we look at the benefits that we're going to get from the project. They should be able to exceed the amount of costs or the funds that we're going to incur in the process of developing this particular project. Then with the technical, we look at the technology part of it. We look look at the technology part of it, we see which technology is in existence and can it be able to allow this project to achieve its objectives. If you're using maybe a system that is not compatible with a project that you're working on to develop an app for inventory management, so it means now you would finish the project and then you will come to a realization of a different problem, that these two cannot be linked. So we look at how these can be aligned, or which better option can we take on to be able to align with what technology we're using in the organization. Then we have the operational. With operation, mainly we look at achieving the objectives of the organization. Then the social, here we look at the acceptance of the stakeholders. So after we finish the initiation stage, we've been able to identify what are the different objectives that we are looking at, how much money do we need, which people do we need on our team, how much expertise should they have, how much time do we have, what is the scope. We've identified all that, we've planned. Now, sorry, we've been able to identify the different things that we need for us to start on the project. Then now we do the planning. In the planning phase, here now we look at the detailed plan of the project. So under this, we can be able to see what are the tasks that are involved, how much time do we have for us to be able to perform these particular tasks that are being given to us. Can we be able to complete it? We look at all that critically. We see if we've set aside the plan, is it complete enough? What is the quality of that particular plan, or is it only spelling out a few things and neglecting the others? So when you get midway, you find that some things were not catered for in the plan. So if we look at the quality of the plan, the quality standards of that we are looking at, the different procedures that we will need to exercise during the course of the project. Then we also assess the different risks that are available. These risks, once you've identified them, you make a plan for the different risks. You see what risks are more likely to happen and which risks are least likely to occur to the organization. And if the risks that are more likely to happen, how adverse are they? How can you deal with them in case they happen? Can we mitigate them, or can we be able to work around them? And then finally, we look at the budget. How much money we will need, or how much resources we will need at each different stage of the project. Once we finish to do the planning, we now go ahead and we're able to execute. Now in the execution is where we begin the actual working on the project. So under this, remember we have given different, in the initiation we have identified which people are going to be in the team, which roles are we going to give them. So we see the different responsibilities that are given to each different individuals, and if they're able to execute as it had been planned. We see them at the execution. We also ensure that the stakeholders are responsible to review the different variances that we are working on. We continuously give also the review. If, for example, this project is for 1 month, every single week, are we able to give a status of how much we've been able to achieve and how much work is pending, so that we can be able to know if there is anything else that would need special attention to be looked at, instead of having a delay at the end of the day. So we see the performances, what we've done or what we should have done, which help do we need, who is responsible for what, which reviews need to be checked time and again, and all that information, or all those different roles are looked at the point of execution. Then lastly, we have the project closure, where we are coming to the end or to the closing of the project. So in the project closure, after we've been able to finish all the different tasks, it means that now we have to be able to make a report to the sponsor. So whatever we have done, we have to hand it over to the people that were creating it to be able to use it. If it was for inventory, in this case that we've been using as an example, we give it to the, let's say, the finance and the warehouse, and they begin to use it, and they will see if it is working for them or it's not working. We also give them the documents that are attached, maybe the different procedures they will need to follow. It could be if they need maybe to make any reversals, how they can be able to go around that, which members were involved, what equipment did we use, all that we submit back in the report to the project sponsor for their accountability and any other purposes in the future. So those are the 4 different stages, and each of the stages is very important, because you will not jump from initiation and then you go to execution before you do the planning, or you will not do the planning before you do the initiation stage. So it is all the 4 will need to be looked at before we begin to work on the project. Any questions, or we proceed? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, proceed.
Okay. So now let's look at the business case document. So with the business case document here, this document focuses on the costs and the benefits that are associated with the project. Okay, so we're talking about the business case document. I was saying that the business case document mainly looks at the costs and the benefits that are going to be associated with the project that we are going to work on. So before we begin working on the project, now this one will give like an overview of what will be the return, what will be the NPV, for example. You do the computation and see how much we're going to spend and how much we expect to get as return from this particular project. So it looks at that, how much we're going to spend and how much we're going to get as a reward or a benefit or a return from this particular spending. So it looks at you can be able to construct this document using 3 different steps. One, you identify the business drivers, and here you look at how the project aims to improve the objectives that are being looked at in the organization. So it helps you to be able to see if the external objectives, if the internal objectives. This gives us a position where to begin to decide from. Then we identify the organization stakeholders and how they will be affected by the proposed project. If it is the stakeholders, how much they're going to spend, how much they're going to benefit at the end of the day. If it is from the different roles that we have seen, how much will be required, or how much each person or each category is going to be affected. And then lastly, we identify the benefits and the costs of the project, and here we can be able to use things like NPV. We can use the return on investment to be able to assess if a project is going to be viable or it is not viable. So let's proceed and look at the project benefits. So of course, if we prepared the business case document, this which we said is going to look at basically the financial terms or the costs and the benefits that are going to be derived from a project. Not all these will be identified from these computations. Some of them may not be considered, or they could be eliminated, and this would give a different overview at the end of the day if you put them in inclusion. So when we're assessing the different benefits of the project, we look at other things other than the costs and the benefits. So we see are the benefits that we're going to get observable. And what do you mean by observable? It means the benefits that we are getting I don't know how best I can put it. You see, there are some benefits that if it's something that can be computed, if it is, let's say, an inflow, you will automatically see that this is how much we've generated or we're going to generate as revenue. But then there are some other benefits that could not be easily observed. Maybe we could say maybe the motivation of the individuals. It's very difficult to be able to see that on the business case document. You cannot be able to compute that financially. Or we could say it's going to help the team to be focused. Those are some of the benefits that cannot be observed, that cannot be computed financially, but can be observed. So we say what we're saying here, we're saying the benefits should be at least observable. If you cannot be able to compute it, you can be able to see. If it's a motivation, you will see that there will be a complete shift from how the team has been doing their work and how they're going to do their work. The motivation that they are having, it means that they can be able to now to come to work early. They are able to maybe serve the customers better. They're able to focus on, let's say, better quality. All this will come from their motivation. So it's a benefit that is not calculated, but it can be observed. Then we have benefits also, which benefits should also be measurable. And with measuring, we look at the quantitative part of it. So the benefits can be measured quantitatively, but the project could sorry, let me close this. So we're talking about the benefits being measurable. So we're saying with measurable here, we look at the benefits that can be quantitative in nature. But remember, like we said, not all the benefits that are going to be gotten from from a particular project can be measured. You cannot quantify them. If it's motivation, is there a way you can quantify motivation? If it is maybe focus, helping a team to be focused, is there a way you can be able to quantify focus really? So it becomes a little difficult. So for those benefits, if they cannot be predicted, it means that we cannot be able to include them in a business case. But then us as the business sponsor, or the people that are heading this project, at a point of initiation, we can be able to assess and see if the other benefits that are not measurable, that we see, will have a very big impact on the organization. And then we have quantifiable. With quantifiable, we see the different benefits that can be quantified and forecast. We can be able to forecast at the start of the project if it is in terms of revenue. We expect, let's say we say in year one, we expect to be able to maybe minimize wastages by this percent, or have this revenue that would have been lost to be and then year two, like this. Okay, you have a forecast that you're looking forward to. So that's what quantifiable is about. We can easily be able to forecast or be able to assess a particular figure even at the start of the project that we're going to benefit. Then with the financials, the financial effect, of course, if it is quantifiable, it means that now you can be able to put it in the NPV computations when you're doing the business case document. So it's easier for you to include them. So you can be able to compute like the NPVs, the RRR, the sensitivity analysis, and these will guide you in whether to, when you're making a decision of whether to take on the project or maybe to let it go based on the answers that you will get from the computations that you have computed before the start of the project. So those are the benefits. Now let's look at the project costs. Of course, we said if the costs are much more than the benefits, then it's of no use for us to be able to take on that particular project. So it means before we start a project, it's very important for us to be able to assess and see what costs are most likely to be incurred, what is our budget, and how much are we looking at. So with the cost, of course, we look at the initial investment, how much we're going to put in the project. Is it maybe we could say, is it buying of a software, is it developing of or is it recruiting of the different team members to come and assist us, is it expatriate fees? All those will be in the capital investment cost. And then we have development costs. Now these ones will be what is happening both in the past and in the future. So it could be if it's developing a software now, what is going to, how much costs are we going to maybe incur on a yearly subscription, on the I was going to call it renovation, but anyhow, I know it doesn't would use a better different word. Is it, we could call it maintenance, on the maintenance of that particular software. So those will be development costs. And then we have allocated costs, for example, the central and the shared services, or maybe premises. So you know that these costs are allocated to this particular maybe department or overhead or something like that. We have also external consultancy costs. These ones, if we need an expatriate to really consult from, to be able to guide us, these are some of the costs that we will really have to part with. Otherwise, you could make an informed decision. You're not informed properly if what you're trying to develop can be able to solve the problem. So consulting, there will be some charges that you will incur. And then quality costs in terms of trainings and monitoring in the process of developing the cost, and also using at a point of introducing the project to the rest of the team members, you will need to train them to be able to use whatever new project you have identified. And then costs of disruption. Often these ones are usually very difficult to, of course, quantify, but of course if there is any disruption, it means now either you need to begin afresh, or it will take you back to maybe backwards. So the cost, of course, it means that there will be an extra cost you will incur in terms of maybe extra time, in terms of maybe overtime. So those are the different ways you could get the disruption costs involved. So with the appraisal tools, these are some of the calculations we can be able to compute to assess before we begin a project if a project is viable, like the NPVs, the IRR, the accounting rate of return, and paybacks. Also sensitivity analysis can be used in this case. I think we've looked at computations for all of these when we're looking at the ratios. So you can compute them in one or 2 minutes and be able to see if a project is going to give you a positive return at the end of the day. So that is it. Now let's look at the project initiation document, or the PID. So with the project initiation document, its main purpose or its main intention of having it in place is for setting out the purpose and the scope of the project. Because we know if we're going to develop, let's say, if we're going to start this project, and this project is mainly for achieving this particular purpose or for solving this particular problem in the organization, it's very important for you to identify the main purpose as to why. Because if you don't know the purpose, you wake up and say we're going to start developing a software, you don't know the software, what it is going to solve, so it means you don't know what you're actually working at. So with this PID, you know that our biggest problem is, let's say, time management. So we're developing a software that can help us be able to see or to identify which individuals are working on which times on the different shifts that are available in the company. Or we could say our biggest problem is the quality. So we're trying to develop something which has maybe stringent checks that must be met before we proceed to the next stage of production or of offering a service. So you first identify the purpose, why you're trying to work or to introduce a project, what are the problems that we're having, and what are we trying to solve, and then what is the scope, what are we going to look at in the process of developing this particular let's say software or any other. It could not be necessarily a software, but any other process or procedure that is being introduced. So once we finished putting in place this initiation document, of course we would submit it to the project sponsor before we begin the project, for him to be able to check, and if it is good enough, if it is covering what the project is intended for, what he needs to concentrate on, then he can be able to give approval. So in short, it's like a contract. You look at it as like a contract, something that you'll have to base on between the person who is going to give you the funding and the person who is going to manage the project. Person who is going to manage the project puts in place what purposes are going to be covered, what scope is going to be covered, and then they give it to the sponsor, look through, and they can either approve or not approve based on what has been included. So in the PID, you ensure that as you're preparing that particular document, you're addressing different all the necessary parameters that are very important. For example, what problems are we facing? So if we have this problem, what solutions or what processes or what procedures do we need to put in place? Who will be leading this particular project? Which team members do we need to have on this project? Those are some of the things you must ask yourself, identify, to help you have this document answering majority of the questions. So you assess it will give information to the sponsor to be able to read through and get proper knowledge of what is going to happen, how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and with who is it going to happen with. So that is what it will entail: the different risks that are involved, the procedures, what is the business case that we want to tackle, what are the different stages we're going to take before we get to the completion, what constraints do we think we're going to face in the process of doing the production, what are the assumptions that we are basing on. Are we, of course, because now if you're doing the computations of the NPVs and IRR, you're doing an assumption. It's not real because you're estimating for the future. how much budget are we looking at, so that we can be able to know how much money he needs to bring in for that project. So it covers all that information before it is submitted for approval. So are there any questions, or we can proceed now? Okay, since no one is responding, I'll assume that we are together and we can proceed. So let's look at the purposes of planning, or at the stage when we are now doing the planning. We finished getting the PID. That is the initiation phase. We're now heading to the planning phase. So what is the use of getting of planning at that point of the project? So of course, when we are planning, we're trying to see in detail, or we're trying to do a complete examination of what we want to work on. So we identify what tasks are going to be available and which people can be able to fill in these particular tasks. If it is a more skilled task, let's say we need an IT expatriate to be able to help us in designing or in coding, which person can we be able to give that particular role? So you identify, you see the deadlines that you must meet. If we're saying that this project, or this, maybe this software you're trying to develop, is supposed to be used in the next 3 months, it means we have a deadline of 90 days from the date when we are starting. So we see what's the deadline. Can we be able to meet this deadline? What do we need to do to ensure that we can be able to progress and finish by the time the deadline comes by? We look at the planning of the different resources which are given to us. If let's say we have a budget of 1 million, where are we going to spend this 1 million? Is it on the people that we're going to employ? Is it on the items we need to buy? Is it on the maybe outsourcing of different skills and whatsoever? So you plan and see where you're going to spend the different resources. Then you prepare a budget, which is a very important document at this planning phase. Unless you have a budget, it means now it could be difficult for you to get funds midway, because if a sponsor doesn't know how much money you're looking at, and then 1 week into the project you're saying, hey, we have a demand of, let's say, 2 million, and this guy in his head he thought 500,000 was enough, it means now he will need ample time to develop the extra amount. So budgeting is very important. Prepare a budget and you present it to the sponsor for him to be able to prepare early enough. And then we also identify any critical parts that will be there in the process of exercising or implementing the project. So with the critical path, we look at the sequence of activities. So we see which ones will take more time, which ones will take short time, for us to be able to get to the completion of the project. So at the planning stage, we will come up with a document, or what we'll call a project plan. What things will we need to consider, or will we need to involve in this particular plan? So we'll need, it's very important for us to be able to spell out So it's important for us to spell out the project management plan. How do we intend to exercise the different activities? When do we intend to exercise them? We also break down the different work structures. If we're saying we're going to do this particular part of the project, this is the different these are, so we need to know what are the different smaller roles that are under that particular part of the or that chunk of work. So we know what different work maybe you will need to do, maybe the researching and the different works. So we know these are the different elements of work that are involved at this particular phase, and maybe these are people that have been allocated. We also see the resource planning. We're able to know how much is going to be needed for the different phases of the project execution. Then we look at the cost management, how we intend to manage the different expenses or costs that are going to be incurred. And then the project quality plan, how we intend to run the different activities up to completion. So these are the things these are the 5 things that are very important for you to include in the project plan, because they will show the details and how you intend to execute the different stages of the project. So now let's look at the work breakdown structure. Sorry. So with the work breakdown structure, or something that we would call an activity decomposition chart, this one, its main purpose is to ensure it will spell out or give specifications of the breakdown of the projects into different tasks and subtasks. So it will show the different breakdowns. What are the tasks that are going to be involved in this particular project, and what are the subtasks? You could say maybe a task is, let's say, you could say trying. We're going after, let's say, after we've finished the designing and having this app put together, we will need to try or do the testing. So testing could be a task, but in that testing there could be a lot of other tasks that are involved. So if you don't spell them out, it means may be difficult for someone to identify or know what you're doing and why you're taking more time. But if you spell out the different subtasks, then they will know, oh, this is very important, it needs to be worked on, it will take this much time. So you're not blamed for not maybe finishing at the time another person would have expected you to finish, or it helps you to justify the amount of time that you're specifying for the project. So we see the work that needs to be done, the resources that are required for this work to be done, and how the sequence of the work will flow. It will also help us to identify with our cost control measures that we can be able to use and how we can be to improve the estimates that are going to be looked at. So that is all looked at in the work breakdown structure. So as we prepare that, of course, each package has to be able to still give the different measures that we looked at. You should be able to define it in a way how it will be managed, estimate estimate you should be able to put in to estimate and measure the costs and the benefits, and also look at the independent and how independent you're going to be as you're trying to execute these particular projects and the tasks that you're going to be working at. Are we together? So we have an example of the work breakdown structure. So for example, this is an example of the structure, how it could be prepared. We have a project that we're going to look at. Maybe this project is supposed to run for maybe let's say 2 months, 3 months. You put the period and how much cost you will need to be availed to you for this particular period that you've identified. So you look at if let's say we're now looking we're developing something for managing inventory. That's the main example that we're using today. How much do we need at the point when we are going to be doing the designing? How much do we need at a point when you're going to do the programming? And how much do we need at a point of testing? So we've identified, it means we have 3 different stages or 3 different phases of doing this particular software or app. It means we have to do the designing. Designing will take, let's say, 1 month, and in the designing process maybe we'll need, let's say, 3 individuals, and each individual is going to be paid worth of this amount of money. After we've done the designing, then we shall do the programming, and then there will be maybe this number of individuals needed, and each person will be paid this amount of money, and this is how we're going to pay them for each task that will be done. Then you do the testing. So you try to break it down such that whichever person is looking at, let's say this total cost 38,000, for example, how is it going to be spent, and at what different phases? Is it at designing? Is it at programming? Is it at testing? If we're doing designs, are we going to how many designs are we going to do? Is it we're going to first do, let's say, the first design, present? If they're not okay or comfortable with it, maybe we need to do another designing phase. So it helps you to be able to support the budget that you're presenting to the project sponsor. Okay, are we together? Okay, so let's continue. Let's look at resource plans. Of course, after we've come up with this kind of breakdown, we know how much resources we need and how we intend to spend or to allocate the different resources to the different phases, or the different individuals, or the different work team groups. So it helps, of course, when you plan for the resources and how the resources are going to be allocated. It helps you to be able to present or identify the project schedule development. How do you intend to do the different phase developments? You know how much is available for us to spend at each different phase. So that will help you to be able to plan and know that we must not take, let's say, more than this number of time or this number of individuals at each particular stage. Also, we're able to see the entire schedule of activities that are going to be happening and in what sequence they're going to be happening. So you know that maybe in this particular phase, these are the activities that are going to be done. Let's say we're going to be doing the design. Maybe the first design will be done and presented, and if it's not appreciated, we shall do the second design. Maybe with the second design we'll need this expertise, we'll need this assistance. So you're able to allocate the different resources. So it helps you to be able to know. For example, you can see in this chart, if we say between February and March we're going to be working on this particular part of, or this phase of the project, how much do we need in terms of, let's say, programming? When do we need the money for programming? In terms of, let's say, obtaining dealership release, how much do we need and when do we need it? Could it be hiring a graphic artist, in which period and how much? So you can be able to plan to see in what period do you need what. So that's how it looks like. So this gives us a sequence of how the different activities will be run and when they will be run. So that is what the sequence is what we call the critical path analysis, or what we would abbreviate as the CPA. So let's look at project cost management. And in cost management, of course, we said we'll look at the budgeted costs that we plan to incur up to the point of completion of the project. So we can estimate these costs. Of course, at the start we don't know how much the actual amount will be, so we try to do estimation for the different costs that we intend to incur. So there are different techniques that you can use when you're doing the estimation. You can use the top-down estimates, or what we would call the analogous estimates. This one, it is based on the actual costs of a previous similar project. If we designed a software for managing, let's say, inventory, and now we're designing a software for managing, let's say, maybe sales, it means we've done a similar project, almost similar before. So we based on that to be able to make a budget for what we are going to now tackle. So that is what top-down estimates are about. Then we have bottom-up estimates. So here we have different individuals in the team, or on the team. So now these different individuals come up with their own estimates. Maybe someone says in the coding process, I will need this estimate, or this approximately this amount of money to be able to execute my work. Another person says, us who are responsible for, let's say, testing, this is how much we will need. Maybe we need this amount on data, we need this amount on maybe computers, all that. So they are consolidated, you sum it up, and you get an estimate figure. So that is bottom up. And then we have parametric modeling. And with parametric modeling, here we have the project characteristics or the parameters. So based on this, we're able to estimate the cost. Either we could say we could use what was happening before, the historical information, to guide us in this particular budgeting. Just a second. Sorry about that. Let's now look at the quality plan. What things do we need to be able to consider or to be able to include for us to be able to say that we have a quality plan that we have been able to design or present to the project sponsor and maybe the other people that will need it for their guidance. So of course, the plan is supposed to show how quality is going to be maintained when you're doing the project, when you're carrying out the different activities to have the project up to completion. So for these projects to be achieved, for these objectives to be achieved to the later, or to ensure that you've been able to maintain the same quality from the start to the point, it means you must have planned for it, or that you have put in place different checks and measures that you will need to follow to ensure that you're able to achieve this quality. So what things would you look at? It could be the communication channels. Which people do you in, if you have maybe this challenge, which person can you report to get immediate assistance? You can look at the standards and procedures that you're going to follow. What standards are you setting out, and how are they going to be followed? We look at the methods we're going to put in place to ensure that we do quality checks. So all these you outline them, and of course if you put them in the plan, it makes it much easier for someone to see that these people are going to maintain their quality. If you say after every maybe unit or at the end of every day, there will be an audit or a review of work done and testing of what has been done. So it means that you're aiming at ensuring that you're achieving the quality for each single day, which will consolidate into the entire period of project production. Of project execution. So you can also look at the actions, which actions will be taken when you're trying to measure the quality. All those, you put them in the quality plan, and they can help to show even the sponsor or any other person what checks you're trying to put in place, or what measures are you putting in place, or how determined are you to ensure that the quality is maintained. So let's look at progress reports. I don't know if there are any inquiries as of this point. Okay, so if there are none, let's continue with the progress reports. So like we said, as you're doing the execution of the project, every single time it's very important to give a review to management or to the sponsor on what you've maybe finished before and what is coming next. So this report is given to the stakeholders, of course, who would now be the owners on a regular basis. Maybe, for example, how much work have you done? How much work is pending? When do you intend to do that particular work? What challenges are you facing? What good things are you experiencing? All that you can be able to report it in the regular reports that you'll be sharing with the stakeholders. So you'll give maybe to the stakeholder, to the sponsors, to the budget holders, to the senior users, and maybe also the team members to be able to see maybe who has done better, who needs to improve, all that information. So this will give, of course, this will entail when you're reporting, if let's say this is the first week of the project execution, you'll put the date. Maybe second week, you'll continue updating them that this is the report as of this period. What is the status of the project? How much have we completed? What is the project summary of what we have covered and what we are looking forward to? What are the key issues that we have been able to identify? What risks have we seen that are likely to come along in this project execution? What tasks do we intend to do next, maybe in the next week? If you're doing weekly reporting, what decisions does management need to decide on that can be able to aid you in the process of doing your work? What budget amounts are you looking at? How much time are you spending on, let's say, each particular activity? All that can be included in the continuous reports that you're presenting to the stakeholders. So now let's look at slippage. Let me see if there is something I need to look at before here. Okay, let's start from effective risk management. So, like, of course, risk is something that we are uncertain that it is going to occur or not occur. We don't know. We're just basing on probabilities. So at the end of the day, if we expect to have any uncertainty or have any risk, we try to mitigate the consequences to an acceptable level. Maybe we say there is a risk that there will be maybe funds will not be availed on time. So what do? Can we begin to have maybe a few fund allocations on a day-to-day basis to ensure that we do not get into a crisis? So you're trying to manage a particular risk. So you assess the risks, identify them. Of course, as you're assessing, you try to identify the uncertainties that are likely to happen. You analyze these particular risks, how the areas of uncertainty can be able to affect you or your performance in the project. You prioritize the different risks that you assume are most likely going to happen and see which one is which one needs more attention than the other. So from there we get to the slippage. So with the slippage, it's more like a delay. So here we look at when the project tasks are not completed on time. Of course, this will be a common problem, because if there are any delays, let's say in the funding, the team members are not reporting, are not doing the work, or maybe any new challenges are being identified, it means the time frame will be affected, or it will be impacted on. So at the end of the day, that will result into a slippage. So the different things that you'll need to consider to ensure that you reduce that particular delay. For example, You can do continuous monitoring. And how does this help? If individuals are not maybe doing the daily tasks that have been given to them, if you do monitoring, then it means that you can be able to see which members are not doing their work, and then you find out what problems are they having, or why are they not doing their daily activities. So you do monitoring, you do regular reviews on the quality of the project, so that you can be able to reduce the need for doing corrections. You do regular communication. When you identify different communication channels, you can increase the resource availability so that you don't have redundancy due to limited or unavailability of resources and funds. And then you can also negotiate for a late project deadline. If you think this project can be done in 3 weeks, you give yourself an extra 1 or 2 weeks in the planning stage, so that you can be able to curb that slippage and have it not impact you as a team when you're doing the project. So let's look at post-implementation review. Of course, at the end of, if you've finished doing all the work, and then you've submitted this particular project or the work now to the client to use, if it was a software, you've done the designing, you've done the testing, and now you've given it to them to use. Now they will have an interaction, or they will have an interaction with what you've given to them, and then they'll give you a review or a feedback. So what is the main importance of having this feedback? Of course, now you're trying to see if what you have designed or given to them is meeting their needs. Is it solving their problem? Is it achieving the objectives that were intended for it to be worked on in the first place? So you're able to see if you have achieved that, and if not, what can you do now to ensure that you can fix that any leakages or any points where the client is not comfortable and needs a review or a correction on what you had presented to them. So of course it's very important, because it will help you get feedback on about the project management procedures that have been taken. It will also help you to improve on the project deliverables, what you have given to them, what you need to improve, how you can be able to work on it and ensure that the project, or the, let's say we can say maybe a software, how it can be able to achieve its maximum usage in terms of, let's say, capping the differences or any other challenge that the organization was facing before they had this project to be implemented. So those are the different benefits, and even many more that you can think about. So that is it about leading and managing of the projects. I don't know if we have any inquiries or if we are together. None? Okay, so if there are no questions, I would like to say that we have successfully come to the end of our SBL syllabus. It's quite lengthy. It's the most bulky paper that I know in ACCA. Now that we've finished, we're going to have to begin on active revision. So I'm going to give you the rest of this week for you to be able to catch up with the notes, read, and make your summaries. Then beginning with next week, we can be able to begin tackling the different questions. So I'm going to share the question. I'll be sharing the question papers and the answers, but the answers especially if you've finished doing the question. Any questions for me?